Hi, everyone, and welcome to our new episode of Digital Health Vitals. We are planning to discuss all the hottest news happened in health tech in the month of July. And we traditionally have with us Sergei Polevikov. Hi, Sergei.
Alex.
Stephanie Davis. And today, our guest is George Mathew. Hi, George.
Hey, Alex.
If you could briefly share a few words about yourself and what you do, where you focus on these days for our audience, I'd really appreciate it.
Sure. Hey, everybody. My name is George. I'm a practicing internal medicine doc. Been doing it for about 25 years. I've also had corporate experience working at GE, Goldman, Pfizer, helped Medidata Solutions IPO back in '09. Worked at Aetna before the CVS acquisition. Was the chief medical officer for Hewlett Packard before they merged to DXC. I currently work at a startup where we do a privacy-based large language model for healthcare. Uh, Download it sometime. Times Help AI. It's on Apple and Android stores. Thanks for inviting me, Alex.
Yeah, thank you. I think your experience is super relevant for discussing some of today's topics. But I know Stephanie needs to leave earlier. Stephanie, do you want to tell us why?
My dog is in a clinical trial for dog aging. So I'll be going into that, and hopefully she can help future generations of dogs.
That's the topic
Love it.
of our next podcast, right?
I mean, if Loyal ever wanted to come on, God knows. Would love
No,
to have him
seriously.
on
Yeah.
there.
Let's get to our first news, and would like to discuss a new report that came out of research done by AriseAI.org and Stanford plus Harvard researchers, and it's only 130 plus pages or slides report, but there are lots of interesting takeaways. Just a few I learned for myself and happy to discuss this with you. So the first one, benchmark scores are no longer enough. I think that's an interesting one. Also, workflow integration matters more than model intelligence. Then, general purpose LLMs are forcing healthcare AI companies to rethink their modes. Also, human plus AI is outperforming either alone. And I guess the last one for me, the next competitive advantage isn't a better model, it's better implementation, evidence, and trust, which I feel like sounds kind of obvious. But guys, what do you think? What's your takeaways from your report? Sergey, I know you talked a lot about benchmarking, and what do you think this new research tells us?
Yeah, this new research is nothing new to me. Like I was listening to you nicely summarizing all the results and pretty general to me, pretty obvious. There is no discovery there, unfortunately. Great authors though, there is nothing I could say there. Great academics. But this is one of those I feel reports that are kind of just to confirm what we already know. And so I mean we can go point by point, but I think it's kind of disservice to our listeners. But yeah, everything you mentioned again, I'm just kind of thinking to myself like what's new here. In terms of benchmarks, yeah, I mean it's important. It's been known like from day one. There is this no harm benchmark. There is OpenAI Health Bench Professional now, and again, it's been criticism all along, as you mentioned. How relevant are they? We keep testing and training models against these benchmarks, and we're getting to the point where statistical significance is basically out of the window because we're talking like 56.2% versus 57.1, for the next model. So, and it's not, as you mentioned, it's not relevant. It's not real world data. So again, very general report. Authors, a lot of them are actually associated with this same companies they're writing about. And so, I don't know. I just cannot find any like real kind of golden nugget there, unfortunately. So that's my opinion.
I was just gonna say what I thought was kind of interesting was that it talks about AI as if it's its own category. And if you look at some of the more recent research on fundraising, right? Rock Health had their first half 26 report that came out. they stopped having a whole AI category, because at this point, if you're not AI embedded, what are you doing? Right? You've got to have some component of that in your model. And so, yes, clinical AI as a category does have to grow, but I would argue it's because pure play vanilla, acoustic clinical probably isn't going to continue.
I agree.
And I'd reiterate what everybody else has said. Like, the report is not saying anything new, but I think it does help to have it come from a credible source. The reason we need a document like this, if anything, is that we're going up against a lot of, I guess, previous thought where it was believed that this could replace actual clinical or non-clinical workers in a healthcare setting, right? There were always these little quotes that people would make just, to rile things up, saying, if I could replace all my radiologists with AI, I would. Or, what's the famous one? We'll replace all the AI docs with AI by 2026 from a couple of years ago. I'm sure Kozla's still seeing real docs, but you know what I'm saying. There was a lot of this that was there to kind of like get the excitement up for AI, and yet we forgot the bread and butter, which is AI as a tool. It's not really the solution in itself. So when you say things like we need to embed it in the workflow or redesign the process around the people and then put AI as a tool within it, that's operational excellence. That's not AI, right? It's something that we've known about for decades with a nice little wrapper on it to make it sound new. Um, I am kind of curious, Stephanie, about what you've been hearing, because what I've been hearing talking to folks in the healthcare field now is that vendors are now not really leading with AI as a solution. They're actually talking about the solution, and AI might be a part of it, but they're definitely like there's almost a distaste to hear that somebody has a AI, magic fairy dust solution for something. They actually want to see what it is you're trying to solve. The AI might be part of it, but unless they start seeing some tangible savings or revenue generation, it's starting to fall on deaf ears.
Completely. It's one of those things where I think we saw so much AI washing at the beginning of this boom that investors and buyers started to get very fatigued by all of it. Everyone had an AI solution. Everyone was revolutionizing healthcare with AI. It became exhausting, especially because a lot of these decks were made via AI slop. So I think, what do you actually do? Getting to the brass tacks of like, tell me like I'm 5. How do you do this? Who are you selling to? What are you saving? Are you saving money? That is so much more key now. Case studies. I think that often a lot of these solutions are too early, but iDoc has done really well because they can say, hey, we're in this many hospitals. This is how they're saving. This is how we're finding kind of benefits to our clients, which sells much better. I also think, the radiology point you made, I thought that was interesting. Folks are like, oh yeah, we're going to get rid of radiologists because we have AI now. It's actually increased the demand for radiology. I don't know if you've seen that, just because now you can actually send something off to radiology and get it back in a very rapid fashion instead of getting stuck in limbo.
I definitely have seen that, but I've also seen the increase in workload for clinicians to check over the results of the AI, right?
They need another
We
AI
see,
bot.
right? It's then, Sergey, Alex, I'm sorry, I don't mean to count you guys out. Please tell me if you've heard anything different. We see it on the non-clinical side with coders, where now you're seeing rehiring of coders to come in and check over the work that the AI has done to look for errors, and they're finding a lot of errors. That's no different for clinicians that are being forced in some cases to use an AI tool, review over it, and then check over it. Um, the supposed time efficiency is being filled in with more work, and that more work includes checking over the AI, with the liabilities still being held by the clinician. So, what are we really gaining?
Yeah, I think what's been missing in some of these predictions, including, I guess, from some of the Nobel laureates, is that I think the assumption is that we can do as well as before with the same sort of amount of outcomes, the same number of care. But the reality is that AI has helped actually increase the output tremendously, and so we have more of those images, we have more of the reports, for better or worse. I think in the end, it's actually for better. I still believe that, more quality data is actually better than less. And so we actually need more radiologists now to actually handle all those reports, all those outcomes, and actually explain in many cases to people, especially now that we have all these baby boomers and all these other, healthcare problems. So it's counterintuitive, but it went the other way. We actually need more quality people who know about AI to be experts and to explain to patients what AI is doing.
I guess I'm gonna disagree with you about there's not much new in this report. I don't want to undervalue the work that this guy's done. For example, I really found quite interesting slide 37. How close are we to agentic AI for medical tests? I love their research. They're saying that among 12 frontier models using a best one metric for test success, Claude 3.5 got 70% right, GPT 4.0 64% right, DeepSeek version 3 63% right. But the interesting part is that models excelled at query-based tasks, so basically just extracting data, but they did pretty bad at actually achieving any activities done by AI. So even Claude, the best one in here, it achieved 85% on queries and 54% on actions. So I think as a person who strongly believes in agentic AI solutions in healthcare, I think it's an interesting analysis saying that it's still kind of early. It's still not giving like high rates, but I think it's a good benchmark. I know we use this word a lot for future to compare, like whether AI is doing better in doing any kind of actions in healthcare just in a few months from now. Any comments on this?
I mean, the case, the med agent bench study is here, right? It's the 300 generated tasks for the clinicians. And look, I have nothing wrong with the fact that it can take on some of these tasks and maybe it's doing it better. But when in terms of the clinical AI that's there, this goes back to what Sergei's point about the diminishing returns. What are we getting better at, right? We're getting better at maybe diagnosing something a little bit better. But, I've been obviously using, some of the tools like OpenEvidence or Doximity GPT. A lot of this is very, very dependent on the information you put in, the quality of the query that you construct, and honestly, even the order you put it in sometimes makes a difference in the response. And you're still depending on the same human reviewer to look at it and say, "Oh, this makes sense." Oh, it doesn't. I remember when some of the residents I worked with introduced me to OpenEvidence because I had never seen it before. And it seemed like lightning in a bottle, especially compared to what I was used to using as up to date embedded in the EHR. So, in that sense, it was great. But I will say that, there's been more of a latency and lag in terms of responses of late. We've experimented whether it's not always accurate, and the folks that I work with now have to check over it now twice sometimes, maybe even three times, to make sure that what it's saying, that it's not emphasizing the wrong thing because of the way the information was input into it. So I would like to look more into it. I guess I'll stay neutral about it until I review over it more carefully. But until I play with it, I can't give you a full response on it, Alex.
Makes sense. Speaking of OpenEvidence versus Doximity, it's funny that I'm not sure which slide it is in this report, but remember there was a slide where specialty models are evaluated versus foundational LLMs, and it's like, I kid you not, every time OpenEvidence, even just a little bit below Doximity, they contest that whole report like vigorously. So again, the same methodology, no harm, that was contested by, of course, OpenEvidence CEO Daniel Nedler. He's like all over whenever Doximity is ahead. He's like, nope, that's not a good report, So it's kind of funny. But like essentially, if you look at the graph, they're all like bunched in the same place. So, but yeah, the report makes a conclusion, which is, I guess, not new, is that you fine tune on medical data, you do a little better than foundational, but. Again, these numbers we're talking now, I start questioning statistical significance. So, but yeah, again, it was kind of funny.
I do wonder, whenever there's like an 85% accuracy or a figure like that, we're like, oh, 85, how could everyone deal with that? I do wonder what the average is for a practicing clinician. And we always go and test this against academic medical centers where you have some of the best clinicians out there. I want to see how this compares to a rural hospital. I bet there's a lot of use cases for it there.
Well, I mean, they put clinicians in the study, obviously, but I think the question is how good are those benchmarks? Because they always try to put like a human, even in this study, they edit AI plus, I guess, human clinician and compare it to just AI and just clinician. I think the question is how relevant those benchmarks are, which we've already talked about.
It's also intent, though, right? Because are we trying to show that the AI is good enough to replace a clinical doc? So in those rural situations you mentioned, Stephanie, when we don't have a lot of healthcare workers, can we just stick the AI in there? Or is it an augmentation play where we're trying to either help those docs that may not be as good as the best docs at some of the best hospitals? Or are we just trying to create something that keeps people from making mistakes? Like the intent really does matter, because that determines what they're really looking for in terms of the studies.
Agreed. And I feel like probably the first use case, right, getting folks care when they don't have access to care, that seems huge to me. And like it would actually free up clinician time to do more top of their license stuff.
Or, as it seems to be in some of the laws they have coming out, force people to take somewhat less expensive healthcare, but keep the liability on themselves. I have yet to see any of the vendors say that they're taking on liability if their AI makes a mistake. So it makes you wonder how confident they really are sometimes.
I hear that.
I agree. For rural health, I think there are a lot of applications. I think I've been at a conference where somebody was just almost like fighting me, saying, no, what are you talking about? It's like,
I'm sure it wasn't your fault at all.
No, of course not. I'm not the instigator usually, right? But I was making a point, look, when there's no one's available, like why not use AI that's verified, and especially if it's like went through all these phases of peer review, etc. They're like, no, it has to be like 100%, you cannot use this technology. So to me, it's kind of interesting argument when somebody has no access to care, for example, in a rural area, hundreds of miles from nearest facility. Why not use the verified, fine-tuned on that particular maybe patient sample, that particular area, AI model. I've been defending that, for a while. So I totally agree with you, Stephanie.
All right. I want to move on to our thumbs up, thumbs down game, but I actually want to stop here for a second at this report because these researchers gave us a few predictions. So I actually want to start the thumbs up, thumbs down game with you approving or agreeing with the prediction that these guys gave. So let's start with the first one. We will have the first malpractice lawsuit where AI plays a significant part in the error. Do you think you guys agree with this or no?
This is kind of a loaded question. We already have news that happened.
We already had that,
yeah, right? We just had that.
I mean,
good
yes,
prediction then.
but
it's a backward prediction.
All right.
Also known
All
as
right, let's
reporting
move to the
news.
next.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, the next one is AI agents for urgent care will hit the mainstream and to be offered by increasing numbers of health systems.
But like, is there a time period there or not? Like tomorrow?
Well, it's a report for 2026, so I assume it's predictions also for the rest of the 2026.
Oh, we only have 6 months? All right.
Imagine next 12 months. Let's just go for this.
All right, 12 months. 12 months then, yes.
All right,
I think it's
12 months.
Yeah. Again, this is kind of insider for me because I'm working on some of that right now for somebody. So yes.
Like it better happen.
All right. I like this one. Health systems and insurers will become locked up in an AI bot arms race to combat each other with prior authorizations, claims denials, and coding optimization. No net benefit to anyone except vendors.
Look, I'm gonna just agree with Sergey here. These are not predictions. This is happening right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm friends with Boris Bakari over at Claimable. I always give him a little hashtag dueling banjos when this type of comment comes up between the AI from the payer and the AI from the provider going back and forth. And he actually told me stop putting me on posts because this is happening all the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think we talked about it, actually. George, you and I, yeah. It's fun.
Yeah. Sorry, Alex.
All right,
I
let's
just
do
had to
one
say
more.
it. All right, please keep
All
going.
good, all good, all good, all good. The slide says predictions, so I'm sticking with it. The last one. The FDA will explore different regulatory mechanisms for generative AI products, but there will still be no significant progress. So what do you guys think? Will FDA come up with any relevant regulations or not?
No. No.
Except Stephanie disagrees.
I just don't think the FDA is going to do that. Nor do I think a lot of these Gen AI products are actually going to go through FDA approval, right? If you look at the majority of them, I think they're probably going to be a component of a feature that the company offers, and it'll become so integrated you got getting regulatory approval for having a software component.
So wait a second. Was this thumb up? Is that they will fail? The FDA will fail? I thought that was a thumb up. No, not thumb down. I don't know. I'm confused about thumbs now.
I think she actually agrees with us. I think we agree with
Okay,
Stephanie.
I actually,
All right, I think we-
I thought the
We don't
thumb
think
up
the
is the
FDA is
FDA is
gonna-
going to explore it, and then they're going to pursue. I don't
Yeah.
think they even explore a regulatory
Ah,
mechanism.
okay.
All right, now actually let's get to our thumbs up, thumbs down game regarding the fundraisers and some successful rounds closed this month. So let's start with the first one. Cadence raises $100 million. Cadence is a company focused on AI-enabled chronic care management and remote patient monitoring, raised $100 million in Series C, and the company uses connected devices, AI, and clinical teams to manage patients with chronic conditions between physicians' visits. Sergey,
why you
tell
hate?
us why you hate.
Yeah, I didn't see any. I don't know. Maybe I missed it, but I didn't see much financials. Also, I was upset that the study, the only study they're quoting is basically their own study. So every single author that I looked at that study was
Sergey, they're a
working
Series
for
C company. They don't have the money to do.
was working for.
studies.
I'm pretty well. Yeah, I'm talking about long term. Yeah, maybe 12 months. Obviously, they have a lot of money. So nobody's talking about 12 months. I'm just talking how they're gonna do long term.
They
So that's just
they just raised 100 million. That's a lot of money.
yeah, I know, but yeah, like General Catalyst was one of them. Yeah, I know those companies. It's just a bunch of guys who know each other. I just don't like this situation. You know.
Look, I think providing care is probably a less disruptable area of the world. Every time I see a company now, I think, how is AI going to disrupt this? Does this need to exist? Are you automating a pre-broken workflow? And when I look at something that actually does provide care and does help, especially seniors, make sure that they're able to get the in-between care visit, because a lot of those senior questions, I know from my dad, sometimes it's just reiterating the same thing that they learned in the last appointment. Like, there's value in that. And that does take work off other folks' plates in a pretty heavily burdened health system.
Yeah, but what are they doing that the competition isn't doing? Isn't like Optum also in this area? They have like huge business there. Like, you know, even from that perspective, I was just trying to understand how are they different. And
There
I
are going to
couldn't
be
find.
competitors in the space. There's no doubt about that. But I think chronic condition management also has a lot of need.
Yeah, I was just talking about the mode. I don't know. I was looking at a little bit. Again, I'm not an expert on the company, but like I was just trying to figure out like how, like usually to me it's like a good companies that has something special, whether it's a device or technology, whatever. I don't know. I mean, it's an important area. There is no argument there. But
I mean,
anyway.
they have a pretty impressive pilot, at least a client with Duke Health. I don't know Jeff Ferranti directly. He's quoted in the article, but I met him a long time ago because I went through Fuqua for business school. Smart dude, pretty impressive. They also have their own kind of, they try to promote digital health as much as possible there. It helps when you have Melinda Gates graduate from the business school, and I believe the former CEO, Tim Cook also graduated from Fuqua too. So they have some deep ties with some of the tech world, but on top of that, they're really trying to promote healthcare too. I don't think they would let it there unless it actually was pretty stringent about what they were going to monitor. But I kind of agree with you, Sergey, also, where I don't know exactly what it is they're doing. Like their wheelhouse is probably monitoring the progress of people with chronic conditions, diabetes, heart failure, whatnot. And they're going to capture that and hopefully put it in a way that's easy for users to participate, whether it's a glucometer or a scale or whatnot, or a blood pressure cuff. But the real question is going to be, how are they going to actually be able to monitor and manage those folks in tandem with the system and show some type of cost savings or outcomes benefit? And I haven't seen enough here to know what that's going to be.
They do have a moat, and that moat is that CMS is proposing new regulation to block a lot of these different new RPM startups, right? They're an existing RPM player.
True.
They're well funded. They don't get hit by some of these very high walls created by CMS in order to block off some fraud. I look at that. I think the incumbents, or at least the pre-funded players before this came out, are probably best set up to succeed. And maybe their competition thins out a little bit because of it.
It's true. They just raised the moat for anybody that wants to be in this space now. You're right. Huh.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Assured raises new funding, $19 million in Series A, to automate one of healthcare's biggest administrative pain points, prior auth. Its AI platform helps providers navigate insurance approvals more efficiently, reducing manual work and speeding access to care. Assured, $19 million Series A.
I'm just laughing at the statement you just made, Alex, and I would love to be in that marketer's head. It's a prior auth platform, but it's going to speed up access to care.
Well, it's because they do provider credentialing as well.
Sure. No, but even the credentialing piece, right? Like that's not a new problem. People have tried it. There was a friend of mine tried it even with using a crypto play on it too. And I think I invested or helped out with somebody that was doing it through Nashville as well. And it's a
I think
tough.
I hosted them at a conference.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not a straight and clear type of thing to do, not unless you've got a lot of backroom kind of agreement saying that we're only going to use your credentialing system. I'm credentialed at 3 hospitals, and it is a pain in the butt, guys, to try to get all this stuff done. So I would love for a solution that would work so I wouldn't have to do it more than once. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I agree.
So are you a thumbs down? Is that the takeaway?
Yeah, I did it off camera because I felt a little bad, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree with George. It's I don't know. Even I'm meeting like all this credential company at the conferences, and I know I've seen much larger players with distribution. This is a relatively small player still, even with this raise. So I'm just going to be cautious here.
I mean, they're at 100 health systems and different providers, right? That's not nothing. And I'd argue that manual provider credentialing is probably the perfect place for like an agentic bot. I don't know if these guys are the player to do it, right? We'll have to go and see. It's still, they just got their Series A. But I want to lean more positive than negative because I think it's a huge opportunity.
Yep.
These guys are coming to our health to tech events in New York all the time, so I'm rooting for them all the way.
You know what? I'm gonna change. I'm gonna change my vote. I'm sorry.
Get out of here, Sergey.
I'll keep
I like those guys now, but they're coming to help. Great.
All right, I'll be the one lone naysayer, and I look forward to being convinced otherwise.
No, I'm just
How
kidding,
about that?
I'm not kidding.
All right. Let's go to the next one. Neko Health raises $700 million. Just to remind you, it's a preventive health company founded by Spotify co-founder Daniel Ek, raised $700 million in Series C ahead of its planned US expansion. The company combines advanced body scanning, diagnostics, and AI to identify health issues early through comprehensive preventive exams.
Sorry. I was just waiting to be polite.
Stephanie, why thumbs down? I was hoping thumbs up from you on this one. After
There
our
are so
mid-journey
many red
discussion, especially.
flags. No, so here's the red flags, right? They've raised over $1 billion. This is just their Series C. They have a $7 billion valuation. That doesn't often happen in health tech. Definitely not successful if you want to go public. I don't think preventative health scans have had a ton of success historically, right? If you look at this, like, remember Forward? Remember that? That was bad. Or like I've done all these preventative things. I've done like the full body MRI. They're expensive, and then you don't really get a lot out of it, and you kind of waste a lot of clinician time. Then I look at this in the context of that whole mid-journey butterfly announcement. It's tough to compete. You've got a very well hyped company. You've got something that's the cost of a gym membership, and you can get a ton of different scans. So you can have time series data. This is £299 per scan and blood test. I don't know if that's as valuable, and I don't know if I'd be shelling out that much out of pocket versus just paying for a gym membership.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was my actual question to you guys. Do you think this company is gonna be a healthcare company or just a premium wellness brand?
I think it can only act as a premium wellness brand. I mean, the issue is the fact that the price point, as well as the things you get out of it, well, fine, let's say that that's reasonable bundled together. Not enough people have the financial wherewithal to be able to act on something they would find from that, right? Like most people have, if they have insurance, have a traditional insurance plan. The insurance plan may not approve those things, or worse, they may look at it and disagree and say, well, you can do it if you pay out of pocket. There's, if you look at the people that can actually use this as an action step to the next step, Alex, it's a fairly limited number of people. And as Stephanie was saying, there are other people competing in that space. And, I just as a doc, and maybe this is just being old fashioned, I find it almost an anathema to have somebody screen a patient, find something that may or may not be a problem, and cause that anxiety and that problem in that person's mind until we can evaluate what it really is. The number of we have a phrase for it when we do a scan looking for something, we find something else. We call it an incidentaloma, which is it's on the scan. We're not sure what it is. We were looking at your thyroid and we found something in your gut. I guess we have to work it up now. And again, if you're young, healthy, wealthy, fine. You've got the time and wherewithal to look after it. Who is it? Was it Brian Johnson is worried about his autoimmune disease for his stomach? Bully for him. He's spending $2 million a year already. He can spend a few million more to chase that down. That's not everybody, and that's not going to work for everybody. So sorry, thumbs down.
This just feels like an expansion of like the Mag 7 full body scanners,
Yes.
right? Google was like, oh, we got the Forward Care Pod. Now the Zuckerbergs are involved in this, saying, no, actually, we have Neko Health.
Spot on.
You guys don't believe in Daniel. I think he did some great things with Spotify, and people thought that there is no way he can compete with Apple Music and YouTube Music and all all those big giants. But he managed to do it with Spotify. So who knows? Maybe he can do it in healthcare as well.
Alex,
Good luck.
Look, I don't want to take away from the fact that he's a very, very innovative entrepreneur. But as we like to say, or we don't like to say nowadays, healthcare is different. So when he's going in with this, the question and the challenge for him is, I've got a system that can screen you outside of the traditional healthcare system and find things wrong with you. Now it's up to you to figure out how to plug into the system and do something about it. That's what he's solving for. And I haven't heard anybody with a good solution for that yet.
Like I'm probably the target audience, right? Like how many people healthy, does all these different scans, understands how to plug into the health system. If I can call a doctor friend and say, hey man, help me get into the health system. Even I haven't found a lot of value out of these. I've done them all. I've done the DEXA scan. I've done the full body MRI. I've done the function blood work. Like, you name it.
Yeah. Maybe he's going to be target ultra high net worth individual or family offices. That might be the market.
And I think it's
Sergey, are you gonna do
so.
this scan?
I don't know. I have to see. I have to read more about this, but it's very troubling for me to hear that actually the American College of Radiology went like hard after these guys, saying that the ACR at this point does not believe in sufficient evidence to justify recommending total body CT screening for patients with no symptoms or family history suggesting disease. Today, there is no evidence that total body CT screening is cost efficient or effective in prolonging life.
Sounds like a group that doesn't get invited to a lot of parties.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, this is also their moneymaker, right? Like if you start doing consumer-based scanning, there's a great story about how when I was at GE, actually, this is dating me, they came up with the 64 screen cut scan CT scan for the heart, and they thought this is great. We can find more blockages, save more people's lives, and they went to radiologists who loved it, but they didn't go to cardiologists who it would actually take away their bread and butter of doing caths. I think they end up having to give them away by the end of in a year or two because no one was getting referrals to get that business because you were taking away cardiologists' bread and butter, even though it might have been a less invasive, safer way to do it. So it's not just, I've got the best idea. It's also got to be, how do you either innovate or work within the system to make it work? And I haven't seen that.
All right, let's move on to our last one for today. Pearl Health raised $110 million to expand its AI-powered platform, supporting primary care providers participating in value-based care. The platform helps physicians identify care gaps, improve quality measures, and manage Medicare patients more effectively while succeeding under value-based reimbursement models. So 110 million, Pearl Health, value-based care.
Oh my God, we have
All right.
consensus? What is this? What's going on?
Yeah, what happened?
How about this? I'll do this
Proud
just
of
to make
this,
it a little bit
guys. Look at
controversy.
this.
I'll do it midway. Stephanie, why don't you lead off? You seem most enthusiastic about it.
Mike Kopko, he's had success before. He's been an Oscar. I think he's seen that value-based care. We're still trying to go in that direction. It's a very difficult area of the world to go into. I think it's smart to build something that supports clinicians in entering value-based care versus saying, hey, we'll provide the care and deal with like stroke with a pen risk. I mean, being an arms dealer in this race is probably one of the best places to be.
Sure.
At the same time, it's a tough area, and I'm not sure that with the, for example, ACO REACH transition in value-based care, I was looking at like, I'm not sure if margins are there, but these guys report profitability for 2025. So to me, it's a great sign being in a tough business like that. Still, in my opinion, unproven, and to actually make money from the get-go, it's good for me. By the way, just for the record, 110 is like their total raise. The latest Series C was 50 million, which is still impressive.
That check size also feels more digestible, like 110, including all the other stuff. Excellent. 700 million in a Series C. Like, ooh, that feels very 2020 of you.
Well, congratulations to them on the fundraise. This has not been a fun environment to try to raise in, especially with all the oxygen being sucked up by the big AI companies. At least that's been our experience. I don't know. Sergei and I have talked about this. I'm a little torn on value-based care because I worked at Active Health Management when they were under Aetna, and we did a lot of value-based contracting around the quality measures platform. And I had trouble making sense of it because of the fact that you have the payer who has all the information, and they're basically negotiating a capitated amount per member with the provider who doesn't have all the information. If it costs me $100 per member per month, and I know it's going to cost me, and I go to the provider and say, can you do it for 90? half the time provider would say yes. No, and we would know they would lose money and they would do it anyways. Now, it did
Use your
force
powers
efficiencies.
for evil. George, tisk.
I was very, and to this day, I still remain fairly naive when I go into something, think it's for the best. And then you learn how the sausage is made. Then you're like, oh, that's not good. That's not going to help. So that part, I admire Pearl for trying to build a platform to help primary care. Like, I'm a primary care, my wife's primary care, anything that can help us kind of do the job right, because we all went to school just to take care of patients. We don't know all the finance stuff you guys do because that just was not in our training. But I do wonder, with that much money, how much of it's going to be used for actual technology setup, or if it's going to be used for some type of financial engineering. Obviously there's going to be delays in payments. You need to make sure you have enough cash flow to keep the offices going. I'm just curious how it's going to go, because a lot of the time when things aren't looking great, the next step is M&A, or trying to find ways to juice growth to make it look like you're actually making progress. And we've seen that story too many times. But I hope that it ends up going to actually do what they say they're going to do. That's why I was like this.
Great explanation. Well, I think we're done with thumbs up, thumbs down.
I've got a dog clinical
Stephanie,
trial to go to.
Yeah.
Good luck,
you gotta
Stephanie.
run. So
Thank you.
yeah, good luck.
Good luck to Lucy. She's the one going through all the different trials and tribulations. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for having me in the program.
All right. The next news I want to discuss is launching health in ChatGPT. So basically now you can give access to all your medical records, connect Apple Health and other wearables, and try to get all your health data in one place, which place is ChatGPT. I feel like it was an obvious next thing for ChatGPT, and they were going this way, this direction. So what do you guys think? How many people are gonna actually provide access to all their health data to OpenAI?
I think I looked pretty careful. I didn't notice any big difference in terms of like what are they doing, and especially security. It's still kind of lacking for me. For instance, you upload
They're
medical
not
records.
talking about security in the press release. They're
I know,
not worried about security.
which is a concern for me, because they're doing the same thing. The initial announcement was in January. This is like a post announcement, and I think it's because Apple Health joined and some other partners, and so I don't know. I feel like they're announcing another thing for the sake of announcement, because again, the way you upload your data is still using either BeWell or Exchange X, depending on what LLM model you want to use. The big thing for me was Apple Health, because I talked about it back in January when ChatGPT and Anthropic came up with their first kind of health announcements, and I actually got a really nice comment to my article saying, what about Apple? Everybody's forgetting about Apple, and my response was, well, it's funny because they're the company with by far the most consumer data, and a lot of its consumer data is actually health data, and they get nothing on their own in terms of health model, health related AI model. That's because they don't have LLM for Apple Health. They never had, and so my prediction was they're going to join either Gemini or ChatGPT, and they actually did both. ChatGPT did a little bit like larger announcement, but like a month or two ago, there was actually Gemini partnership as well. So again, in terms of partnership, it's a big thing for me. In terms of like new things, new features, I haven't seen much. Again, when I looked at it, I use those connectors to connect to my my chart platform, and if I need to download something, I use PDFs to kind of. So in terms of kind of streamlining something there, I didn't see anything new. I wish there was one day we have some platform where I shouldn't be worrying as a patient. First of all, like that something's missing, and second of all, if it's actually secure and HIPAA compliant, because right now it's not. The moment I'm not signing any BAA still as a customer because I'm not a business, and so the moment my data leaves my AHR system and goes into LLM, I mean, who the hell knows? So again, security is a big thing for me, and also like how comprehensive is this data set for my, what if something's missing, what if I went to a doctor outside of Epic, so that's kind of the big question for me.
I think you're thinking a little bit more like a person who is in tech and in AI and deeply involved and know about security. But if you take a regular person who just uses ChatGPT for basic prompts daily life, do you think they're gonna just click, yeah, please connect to my Apple Health and to my HR and just use it, like without really second thoughts about security and BAAs and all that fun stuff?
Oh, they're already doing that. And in fact, in the same announcement, OpenAI mentioned that I think like 30 million people now are using ChatGPT for health questions, which is already outside of any HIPAA compliant platform. So yes, I mean, we're already there. Adding Apple Health for some folks who are using, I guess, Apple Watch was exciting. So I mean, people who care about all these little plugins and add-ons, I think maybe it was an exciting announcement for them. For me, because I saw the previous one, and so like comparing the two, this is what I did for this recording, wasn't really big for me. But again, maybe I'm missing something, and I'm curious about George's opinion as well.
No, I wish I could say that I plugged in and used it, but Sergey, for the same things that you've described, which is there is no protections for the consumer, there is no guarantee that they don't hold on to your data. I haven't, because the thing that I have a concern about is, okay, you give up your health data, and most people, like you said, Alex, they're just using it for day-to-day things to improve their health or monitor it or monitor their families. I get it. It's convenient. It's easy. It gives what sounds to be a human-like answer that's understandable, and it kind of gives you some direction as to what to do. All that's great. But the reason that we have licensing for doctors, the reason we have these laws in place is that when bad things happen, there has to be some type of responsibility or liability. And there is none of that for ChatGPT for health. Like, you put in your information, that becomes their data set. Fine. That doesn't sound like a big deal. But let's say I'm OpenAI and my advertising revenue has dropped to less than 90% of what I predicted, and I need to make money somehow. What do I have that I can sell that I can start making some money from? And who would be potential buyers of this information? Like, there's a long-term view of this that I don't think most people have, because when your health's either really urgent or right in front of you, you're just dealing with that thing and moving on to the next thing. But if somebody has your full health profile, and let's say your employer, your life insurance company, your, anything about your life, anything where somebody wants to find something out about you, and they decide, oh, well, I need a curated data set on Alex. Where can I get it? This is now up for sale potentially, and that can be used against you. Like, I was introduced to this concept because a friend of mine lost his life insurance policy because somebody saw a picture of him on Facebook holding a cigar at a wedding, and he said on his questionnaire, "I don't smoke. I've got a photo of you smoking." Done, and that's after 20 years on the policy, and that was from 15 years ago. Imagine what they can do now. So I can't comment on how great the system works or what can be done. I only know that we're giving very personal pieces of information that, as a live practitioner, I need to be confidential about, or I can go to jail if I share it. Giving it to a company who has basically nothing but the for-profit motive to keep it going, and they can do with it what they will. And I'm a little nervous about that.
I was gonna make a joke about OpenAI being still not for profit, but we all know that's bullshit. All right.
Well, they're definitely not
let's move
making
on
any
to
profit, so that's true.
well, they're trying.
They're not making any profits. So
All right.
true. Yeah.
That's
let's
true.
let's move on to our next. Actually, I have two more news to discuss, but I think I'm gonna try to combine them in one. So the first one, the FDA selected Dexcom as the first manufacturer in its technology-enabled meaningful patient outcomes, or TEMPO, pilot. So Dexcom plans to offer its Dexcom Glucose Health program in connection with the CMS Innovation Center's access payment model. The program is intended to help patients, clinicians, and caregivers monitor metabolic and nutritional health, receive personalized guidance, and use real-time data and AI-generated insights. And the second one, Peterson Health Technology Institute just released a couple of weeks ago, just released a report that says that there is no really a good payment model for autonomous clinical AI. So under fee for service, AI could make healthcare more expensive, not less expensive, and pay per performance, which is basically value-based care, is better aligned with cost reduction, but the Institute says that they still do not provide enough incentive for organizations to absorb the cost, risk, workflow challenges, and operational effort required to adopt clinical AI. So my question to you guys, I think, well, actually, my first question is FDA and CMS, for the first time, are trying to partner, and I think it's an attempt to connect regulation with reimbursement. Do you guys agree with that pilot? And then to the second point, do you think this is an attempt to actually answer Peterson Institute Technology Institute report saying that, hey, this is going to be a new model for AI that FDA and CMS is trying right now? What do you guys think?
You're asking if they're trying to directly answer it versus, or you think it's a way to answer it, Alex?
I think it's a way to answer it. It's like the way to come up with this new model where you combine technology, AI, and reimbursement, and hopefully some sort of new payment model is going to come out of this. At least those are my thoughts, but happy to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think you're right. And we all, I mean, on the provider side, obviously, actually, and on the payer as well, we'll care about reimbursement and how it's related to outcomes. I'm just not sure if this is going to be the model. That's kind of my short answer, because we have a history of trial and errors. Even I think from FDA, there was this what is a pre-cert program that's also based on digital health outcomes, and they shut it down actually in 2017. So they keep on trying. Another thing I was thinking about, and I'm not sure what George what you were thinking, but to me, like the capitated model, kind of risk-based that we've had for many years, kind of also in that kind of arena, and there are a lot of ups and downs. Like obviously, like to me, the greatest example is Babylon Health, when CMS wrote them a blank check for like $1 billion in 2022. 15 months later, they announced bankruptcy. And to me, it was also like, they're basically saying, look, you can pay us essentially fixed fee, and the way we're going to make money is to improve outcomes by using AI. And of course, we know where that ended up. So I don't know. I'm not a big predictor. I just think it's great that we're trying, and this is obviously part of the CMS access model. And we talked about it on this program before. I think it's a great attempt. We have to look at outcomes. I'm just not sure if this particular program is going to be it. In terms of the Peterson Institute, I don't know. When I read it, I think they were answering or I guess questioning and reporting quite a slightly different answer. They're looking at AI in healthcare and how it affects costs. And I guess there is a relation there, but their conclusion is, well, it's not obvious right now, and the fact that they haven't named names, and I've read about these guys. They're pretty independent. They're usually naming names. In this report, it was kind of like, well, across the industry, we haven't noticed any, big improvements, in terms of clinical benefits and outcomes in the companies that use AI. When they did similar research a couple of years ago on diabetes programs, they named names. They're saying these guys, Livongo and everybody else.
Well,
they're not.
this is a different type of report, Sergey.
Yeah.
They have a different types. Sometimes they just analyze the market. Sometimes they'll analyze specific niche, and then they actually assess specific companies. So this is a different type of report. But I get your point. And George, before you respond, I'll actually give you another question. If an autonomous AI performs work previously done by a physician, should it receive the same payment, a lower payment, or only a share of documented savings? What do you think?
Wow. Hit me with the tough one first. Define the same work, Alex, right? Because the work that I do now, especially because I've had to use AI, goes beyond just diagnostic and treatment and accuracy, but it also goes down to billing, coding, and taking on malpractice liability if I make an error. So if AI is doing all of those things, yeah, I agree it should get paid exactly the same. The problem is, as I've outlined those steps, it can do the billing and coding, or at least make an attempt at it. It can do some of the diagnostics. It can some of the back office, some of the initial front end, digital front door, whatever you want to call it. But you know, everyone's still pushing for human in the loop because it's not 100%. And I've seen no company brave enough to step forward and say, we can do it all, including bear the liability, because they can't. They won't, right? They need a human to be, I forgot what the phrase is legally, but I'm just going to say liability shield. They need a human in the loop. That's why, for autopilot for your Tesla puts all the liability on the driver, right? Because if they get into an accident and hit a person, it's the driver's fault for not readjusting it. Autopilot is really just a marketing tool. So if it takes on all the responsibilities and is willing to take on the liabilities, yeah, it should be paid the same. But to put it down to, well, it diagnoses as well as humans, should be paid the same. Fine. If you don't need me, you don't need me. But then, you play with the bull, you get the horns.
I can also play the devil's advocate here, and to answer it the opposite way, Alex, your question, to basically say, and I think there are certain people in the industry who may actually have a similar view, that I'm not saying that's my view, but I'm just kind of devil's advocate that, if we have good enough AI agents, and there's a competition among them, why wouldn't they be paid less, for example? If the next agent can do the same job for less money, and that would potentially make it worse, for all of us. I mean, great news for payers and monopolies of this industry, but not such good news for clinicians and patients, perhaps. But that I think that's a viable view that some people have.
I mean, the report, the Peterson report, I hate to go out of order, Alex, but it's highlighting the issue that's always existed in healthcare, which is what you pay isn't what it costs, right? And it's that difference, that margin between, where many healthcare companies make their profits, right? They don't charge you what it costs. They're not stuck to a fixed margin. They're going to charge whatever the market will bear, because that's how healthcare has been traditionally. And if AI reduces their costs, this is where it gets to be touchy. You are going to see some type of deflation, but it's going to be deflationary in costs internally, operationally. But for the actual price, right? That price that goes out to the client, to the patient, they're never going to enjoy that deflation, because all of those gains are going to be enjoyed by the company itself.
Exactly.
It even goes, if you look at AI, how it's implemented. If you look at AI as it's embedded in workflow, let's say in Epic, versus using OpenEvidence, the difference between the two is Epic, and by extension, the healthcare system that's making the user use the AI in all these different situations. They're the ones enjoying the benefit from it, right? They're hoping to pay less to the worker, whether it's a clinician or an administrator or whatnot, by spending on this AI. but the worker does not get that benefit. On the other hand, OpenEvidence, Doximity GPT, because I use it interspersed with my work and I get paid a fixed amount for an outcome, I enjoy the benefits because I get my time back and I can be more efficient, or I can take some rest, which I might need. See, it all depends on how it's implemented and how it's compensated. And that's why the report, I think, is kind of highlighting these differences without naming names. But I think people are starting to realize that the benefits don't accrue to everyone equally. Definitely
Yeah,
not to the
I agree
patient.
with the argument is that even if we have the deflationary trend, when at some point from AI, does it get trickled down to the customer, which is the patient, an actual clinician? I would argue that's a big question for me. So I
Yeah.
totally agree with you, George.
For the first thing for Tempo, and them choosing, it was one of the glucometer companies, right? I believe that they chose to work with
Dexcom.
for the Dexcom.
Dexcom,
I mean, I think Sergei made a really good point, which is we keep on trying to shove a square peg into a round hole. Like we're making a lot of these pilots with the conclusion already almost decided, and then trying to have the data back it up. In this case, the gist of it is we're giving less pay for healthcare management. Let's see if we can use technology to reduce the cost of it, and we want to make sure that there's some type of clinical aspect to it to monitor it to make sure it's going well. But ultimately, are we going towards cost savings or better outcomes? What seems to be the case, especially if you're talking about payers or these programs, is cost savings. I've yet to see any of these pilots that show really a statistically significant difference in outcomes. Like if anything, they're middling at best, and we don't have the best outcomes. So the bar is low, at least on that respect. So they may be shooting for the more tangible aspect, which would be lower costs.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, this is a live pilot with Dexcom. I mean, they're a great company, arguably, probably the leader in continuous glucose monitoring, publicly traded. It's very much profitable, but it's a live pilot. So basically, patients right now under this TEMPO program are guinea pigs. There is no data. So what if this program doesn't improve outcomes? Like who actually bears the costs? But right now the program reaches the patients and the device gets reimbursed, so without even knowing how it's going to end up. So this is kind of another aspect which is kind of strange to me. Again, as I said, I'm all for improving outcomes, but in this case, this is like a live sort of scenario that we don't know how it's going to end up.
Yeah, I know we need to investigate and find out whether something works to try to find things to be better for the future. I'm just not a big fan of making people guinea pigs without their full transparency and consent. If you talk to any patient, especially an terminal patient, the majority I've ever talked to have always been very giving about trying to help people in the future. They know their time is limited. But this type of thing feels like it's not that transparent. It's not that obvious. And people don't realize that they are the guinea pig.
What a positive way to end our today's episode.
So I assume that means I don't get an invite for the panel in August. I appreciate you letting me come on the podcast.
I'm going to volunteer to be guinea pig for Dexcom program. I'm fine with that. I don't care.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for this amazing episode. Any last minute announcement or any expectations for the month of August? Are you expecting any big news happening?
Just looking forward to seeing you guys in a few weeks, hopefully at your conference.
Yeah, Health to Tech. Yeah, Health to Tech. Let's go.
I love it. Thank you so much and see you soon.